Hey everyone, welcome to the Maasto Fitness podcast. Today in episode 28, we are going to talk about coming back from injury. So, this is a quick hit podcast where we keep them short and to the point, focusing on the things you can do off the bike to race faster and safer. At Maasto Fitness, we work with racers remotely in the real world. Many have a life full of commitments and don't have a lot of time to train on the bike or ride. We provide training off the bike, so days on the bike, whether riding or racing, are faster and safer. And like I said, today we're going to talk about coming back from injuries. So injuries happen. It's part of racing, part of competing, part of training. I'm sure no matter what sports maybe you've been involved with or played over your life, even in the best of scenarios, sometimes things just come up and the body gets injured. And what's important when injury comes up is that the decisions we make afterwards. So the injury happens, we can't focus on the past or what happened or how it happened. What we can do is make the right decisions going forward so that we're able to get back from our injuries sooner, quicker, and get back to riding and racing and doing what we enjoy doing. Now, first, injury prevention is key. It's important to be able to hold good form on the bike and being able to react quickly and efficiently to terrain, the things that are going on in the racing, and have the endurance to continue on without fatigue that affects those things, that affects your reaction time and your ability to hold good form on the bike. So, this is where what I do comes in. I do strength training, endurance training for racers, mobility work, and that's really important. All of those are key because we want to have a strong and fit body that can properly move through range of motions. So when an incident does come up, a crash going down, we're less likely to be injured through having proper fitness and proper range of motion. Now, severity of injury, your age, your athletic background, all of those are factors in any type of injury. But it's important to know how you need to let it heal. So, by going to a physical therapist, if it's like a minor injury, something that's like, well, I didn't like have to go in the ambulance or have to go to the ER, but something isn't right. I crashed, something is off. A day or two later, it's definitely still not feeling great. It might be worth it to go to a PT and getting it assessed because all types of injuries are different and you might not need a PT routine per se going in a couple times a week or weekly, but sometimes you can go to a PT and get a routine that will help you get back quicker. So that's one thing to know. And then another thing, post injury, it's important to make sure you're eating a high quality diet. I know when we're injured, it's easy to be down and just feel like you should eat junk food and lounge around. But a high quality diet nourishes the body and is going to help the body heal quicker. So keep that in mind too. What you eat is going to make a difference. Getting proper sleep is going to make a difference. All these little things make a difference and help getting us back from injury. If you're watching this, training, racing, riding is probably pretty important to you, and you want to get the most out of your time on the bike. And when you're not on the bike, you wish you were on the bike. So those type of things all come into play a factor, making sure you're eating the right things, getting sleep, really important for the body. Now, on the lower end of an injury, two common things that happen to racers, just if you go down or hook a leg in a rut weird or collide with someone on the track, are sprains and strains. So a sprain is an injury to a ligament and capsule of a joint in the body. And then a strain, which is also very popular, is an injury to a muscle or tendon. And healing, it depends on various factors, the severity of the injury, your age, your athletic background, all of that. But those are two kind of injuries that can be like a little nagging or annoying. You're not like in a cast, you're not requiring, something to like that would like, be kind of like an injury a lot of people think of when they think of like motorcycle racing and the injuries that racers have. Sprains and strains, super common for racers, super common across all sports, and can be really annoying if you don't take care of it. So this is where mobility and flexibility comes into play because a lot of sprains and strains can happen by not allowing the body to work properly through a range of motion. So, like I said, sprain is a ligament or a capsule joint in the body. So you can think of like the importance of flexibility, mobility training, doing things like yoga, stretching. We're making sure that those joints, those parts of our body, like our shoulder, can move properly through a range of motion. The scapula in the back, which moves with our shoulder, can properly slide, and that our shoulder, we're able to reach the proper ways we can around us. We don't. we can actually lift our hands straight above our head, straight to our side. We can pronate and supinate our arms properly. All of those things come into play a factor if and when you go down. Because if the body can't move through those proper range of motions, something that could kind of stretch a little, have a strain, a sprain. If we don't have those proper range of motions, that's how we could end up with a tear, and we could end up with a much bigger injury. Where by doing the flexibility and mobility work, in theory, we are greatly reducing our chance. And same with a strain. That's got soft tissue, muscles, tendons, and that there is the same thing. If we're not doing our flexibility, mobility work, something more likely to tear instead of sprain or strain. They're going to be out longer, possibly need surgery or much more extensive PT than if we have the proper range of motion and we cause a smaller injury. So keep that in mind. I know a lot of people don't love doing flexibility and mobility work, but it pays off, especially on the injury side. Things that can move properly through the range of motion, our body's able to move how it's designed. When we do hit the ground or hit a tree or whatever it may be, riding or racing, we can decrease the chance of injury, which is what we all want. So keep that in mind. That flexibility and mobility work really pays off big. Now, like I kind of mentioned earlier, another one, consulting with a PT to know how to rehab injuries. The science has really changed over the years and how we can get back from injuries sooner and quicker. And one that really, has changed long ago, many injuries were just rest, ice, compression, elevation. So you got a sprain, a strain, whatever it may be, don't move the joint, don't move the area. Put some compression around it, wrap it, make sure it's lifted so it's nice and high, and then put some ice on it, and that's the way to go about it. Now, a lot of science now is saying, actually, for soft tissue injuries, you don't necessarily want to just rest it and rehab it and let it sit there. A lot is showing now that actually moving that joint, that muscle, that tendon, whatever it is going to help speed up recovery. And the intensity at which you do that depends on the injury, where it is, your history, and that's why it might be worth it for you to check into a PT or see if you can get an appointment with a physical therapist to have them assess it and look it over. Because sometimes that old method, rest, ice, elevation, compression, does not line up with a lot of what we can do today to get back from injury. So keep that in mind. Just resting it, not necessarily always the best if it's a soft tissue injury. And a lot of times you can get into a PT and you can call around. I know for me, I can get into a PT and just do like a one-off or set up like a short-term schedule. It doesn't have to be as complex sometimes as people think it is with insurance and rehabilitation and everything. And if you find a lot of PTs, if you find one that works with athletes, where athletes as racers, they kind of understand what you're going through, what you want, and that you really want to get back, and you want to get back to a performance standpoint, not just a quality of life daily standpoint. So it's always something worth looking into. Don't just assume you need to rest everything when there's an injury. There's lots of factors. So don't just jump to conclusions. Reach out to a professional. That's what I always suggest to all the racers I work with. I'm an endurance coach. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I'm not a physical therapist. So when my athletes have something, I always suggest they reach out to a professional. And that would be my same advice for you. Reach out to someone who specializes in people who get injuries, racers who get injuries, and what they can do to get back. Now, speaking of injuries happen, unfortunately. It's part of sport. As an athlete, it's important to remember that you don't necessarily have to completely stop training. You can, for the most part, do something safely and healthy to help you kind of keep momentum, keep you feeling like an athlete, keep you maintaining a little bit of fitness. And then when you are 100% healed, jumping back into training and racing, you'll be in a much better spot. So, for example, at Maasto Fitness, we have a program, our single jump training program has additional workouts and whole other training plans the racers can put in. And we've got a couple training plans that are built around upper body injuries and lower body injuries. So if you have an upper body injury, well, this is all lower body based and doesn't use the upper body. So if you've got some issue going on in the upper body, you're not going to cause any damage or any unnecessary pain. And then same deal, we've got some that are just lower or it's just upper body focused. So if you have a lower body injury, you can do this upper body training without affecting what's healing on the lower part of the body or causing any type of negative outcome to the healing of your lower part of your body. So keep that in mind. I think a great example for me was that I saw in action long ago. My wife had some foot surgery from running, and so like the foot had to be elevated. She couldn't do anything for like 2 weeks. She couldn't even really walk. But here she was, day two post surgery, laying on her back with some weights, doing upper body workout, upper body movements to just keep her feeling like an athlete, keep her maintaining a level of fitness. So when that foot heals, she's able to get back to training just like she wants, and knowing she did everything she could in the process. So that's all I've got today. Just keep in mind when you have an injury, it's not the end all. It's not end all. Reach out to a professional and know that maybe the methods that you knew before for getting back from some sprains and strains are different now. So reaching out to someone really help you do the best for yourself to be able to get back to training, riding, and racing sooner. And with that, at Maasto Fitness, as you know, we build strength, endurance, and mobility training for riders and racers. Plus, have tons of hydration, nutrition guides, monthly group coaching calls. You can get any and all questions asked. Lots of resources for racers. So if you want to give it a try, send me a message on Instagram and I'll hook you up with a free week of our single jump training program. See you guys next week.